10 years ago, in a university lab, they applied a layer of glue on a microscopic slide, pasted the slide against one's forehead, and teared it off. With a slide full of hair follicles, they observed an animal with a size of 0.3 millimeters for the first time in my life. Next, the laboratory teacher said, 3 months don't sun your quilt. 600,000 mites will sleep with you. Mites belong to the class Arachnid. In another word, numerous spiders relative are living in our quilts and hair follicles. Today, let's talk about mites, a relative of spider. Back in 1928, in Hamburg, Germany, a coughing little girl came to Dr. Decker H's clinic with rhinitis, asthma, and inflammation. She suffered from these symptoms repeatedly on respiratory tract and couldn't get well. After diagnosis, Dr. Decker suspected that maybe she wasn't falling sick, maybe it was an allergic reaction. He decided to visit her house in person to find out the cause of allergy. Upon arriving at that little girl's house, Dr. Decker's helper took samples from carpet, fireplace, kitchen, bathroom, exactly like a detective. Dr. Decker didn't find anything abnormal. The house was clean and tidy. The home-cooked food was also normal. Environment around the house was also nice. When he went into the girl's room, he patted the old sofa located beside her bed, motioned his helper to take a sample from there. When the helper was taking samples from the sofa, the little girl coughed again inadvertently. Dr. Decker seemed to have found the answer. A few days later, the little girl came to the clinic again. Dr. Decker wanted to use the sampled solutions to do an allergy test by applying all of them on the girl's arm. Firstly, the helper dripped a sampled solution on the little girl's arm and waited for a while. If there isn't any allergic reaction on the skin, a minus symbol is marked beside. If there is an allergic reaction, with the skin turns red, swollen and got bumps, then this sampled solution might be the cause of allergy, and a plus symbol is marked beside. The sampled solution corresponded to the old sofa in her room. The truth was finally revealed. The little girl's mother also recalled that the sofa was moved from living room to her bedroom half a year ago. The helper went to little girl's house again and took a sample of the dust from the sofa, then helped her parents to move the sofa back to the living room. As expected, the little girl had fully recovered from asthma later. Dr. Decker continued to investigate the dust from the sofa. He found a lot of mites among the dust. It was a type of house dust mite. Dr. Decker later published a thesis based on the little girl's case and his hypothesis on the allergy caused by the dust mite. This was the first time humans attended that house dust mites may cause allergy. Dust mite is one of a species among 48,000 species of mite in nature. It roughly looks like this, very tiny, only around 0.2 millimeters. Mainly lives among the dust or unseen corners in a house. The so-called 3 months don't sun your quilt 600,000 midis with sleep with you. The midis refer to these dust mites. Dust mites love humid air for humidity level of around 80% when rainy season. It is a breeding heaven for dust mites. Dust mites mainly feed on humans' dander and some mold. Their lifespan is about 10 weeks. In the last 5 weeks of their life, a mated female dust mite will lay about 80 eggs. By using a microscope to observe the dust mite, you will be surprised that dust mites don't have an anus, one way in and no way out. But scientists said they actually do defecate with 2 dung balls daily. As they don't have anus, the dung balls were stored within their body, as their stomach becomes bigger. On the day it dies, boom, they exploded with around 2,000 teeny dung balls spurted everywhere. These dung balls are the cause of allergy, as their digestive system contains a type of enzyme which mainly exists in the dung balls after the dust meat died. This type of enzyme was then proven to be the cause for most of the allergies, with a ratio of around 25%. in countries like Europe, Americas, Africa, and up to 47% in East Asia. However, for severe allergy like the little girl had, it is only below 5% of the world population. So, there is no need to worry about it. If you are the person who feels very uncomfortable with humid places when visiting southern country, then you might be allergic to the local dust mites. After understanding all these, it is clear now on how to prevent dust mites. Firstly, cut off the food sources. Clean your bed linings periodically. Don't leave your dander on the bed for so long. Secondly, change the temperature and humidity. Sun your quilt periodically, with the humidity less than 20% and temperature higher than 60 degrees Celsius. Doing these can kill the dust mites effectively. Then pat the quilt so that those dung balls and dander will fall off. This method is very effective. Thirdly, furniture's material. Why Western people loves blanket, textile, feather pillow, duvet, while Eastern people mainly have wooden furniture and stone floor? This might due to Eastern people are more allergic than Western people. Wooden furniture, stone floor, herbal pillow, and so on. These are the habits practiced by Eastern people. As a mites prevention method, these ancestral habits are very effective. Dust mites are not scary. In a dry and empty house, they will gather themselves together, reducing surface area to prevent evaporation, and quietly stay at the corner, waiting. When you back home, with that dander and humid air, they will rejuvenate soon. They exist everywhere and living in harmony with humans. Then, why salesmen said that mites can cause various skin problems, such as rosacea, eczema, scabies, and a more severe one, like alopecia areata. As food chain exists everywhere in nature, there is also a delicate and balanced ecology on our face too. About 300 years ago, an adventure ship was sailing on the Mediterranean Sea. They were from Italy and on their way to scout for Turkey's coast defense. The journey was a dangerous one. Diseases broke out among the crew after being on the sea for so long. A doctor on board at that time was named Bonomo. He born poor, but he was a genius scientist. He received both of his doctorates in philosophy and medicine from University of Pisa when he was just 15. During this 2-year voyage, he also suffered from various diseases, with scabies as the most painful one. All the crews suffered from itchiness. Late at night, the cabin will be filled with the sound of the crews rolling, scratching, and moaning. Bonomo started to using microscope to inspect the skin of the crews. He observed a tiny living creature and drew it out. This was the first time humans observed a mite. He also discovered that this kind of mite seemed to live under human skin, making caves, mating, and laying eggs, and was likely to be the cause of scabies. Based on his own theory, Bonomo invented a shampoo using salt, mercury, sulfur, vitriols, and other aggressive and permeable substances. This shampoo had saved all the crew members on the ship. Instantly, the crews were high in morale, with everybody dancing happily. Bonomo, who just aged 18 that time, almost got promoted as captain. When he returned to Italy, he submitted his research's result and thesis to the Sapienza University of Rome. However, as he unable to gain support for his research, he went back to ship as a doctor again and earned a living by treating diseases. 10 years later, Bonomo died in a voyage. The medical manuscript he left was very advanced. Till now, many scientists still researching this manuscript. Later, it was known that a medical office named Lancisi had framed Bonomo. He was a pope's chief medical officer. As he was jealous for Bonomo's talent, he abused his political power to sentence Bonomo's future to death. After another 200 years, doctors in 19th century started supporting Bonomo's theory. They informed that those mites that make caves under our skin were called itch mite. They feed on dust mites, making caves under our skin after eating, laying eggs in the cave, and leaving the cave for mating. Then, humans will suffer from rosacea, eczema, and even alopecia areata. No wonder a shampoo brand that once contained mercury was so effective in fighting acne and whitening. It turned out to be Bonomo's formula. Now, we will talk about another relative of them, which is the itch mites. Itch mites are one size bigger than dust mites, roughly around 0.4 milliliter. They have no eyes with a lifespan around 2 weeks. They will make a long cave under our skin. This process only takes them 25 minutes to 1 hour. These caves are also nice hideouts for Streptococcus. With just about 10 caves like this, humans will start to get itchy. Then you will scratch your skin, causing bacterial infection, which will further lead to eczema and scabies. Every day, the itch mites lay about 2 to 3 eggs in their cave. About 30 eggs are laid during its lifetime. After 3 to 4 days, these eggs will hatch into itch mites and continue to make caves. About 4% of the whole population are itch mites carriers. The worst part is, itch mites can be transferred from one to another. When shaking hands, touching faces, or having close contact with the baby. This is so unacceptable. But how can we prevent them? It seems that besides mercury and Bonomo's method, there is no better alternative for us. Anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, are only treating the symptoms without curing it. To cure it, we have to improve our skin condition. As for how to improve our skin condition effectively, one should seek beauty experts' advice. Besides improving skin condition, another effective way is get rid of those dust mites periodically. As itch mites feed on dust mites, reducing dust mites will lessen itch mites' number. In reality, as our hygiene keep improving, urbanites nowadays hardly carry itch mites. Hence, we need not to worry about it. But instead, our pets, especially in cats' and dogs' hair, are more prone to carry itch mites. Those itch mites on their body will also infest humans via physical contact. Then, here comes a question. Many of us do contact cats and dogs occasionally, but why many of us aren't infested by the itch mites? One of the reasons is another type of mite, fiercer than the itch mites, might have been living on your face. Back in 1842, there was another 18 years old of medical genius who pursued for doctoral of medicine at University of Gießen in Germany, Gustav Siemann. That year, he used the sampling method mentioned in the very beginning of this story and observed a type of mite inside our hair follicles. Which is different from other mites. This kind of mite has a long tail, about 0.4 mm long. They seem to live in our hair follicles and feed on our skin cells and sebum. During the day, they hide in the hair follicles to avoid light and start crawling on our skin during the night. They can travel about 10 cm every hour. This time, Simon also sent his discovery to the top academician from the same field. Will he has the same fate as Bonomo? The person who received Simon's letter, named Richard Owen. Sir Richard Owen has two things that we all know well. First, he mercilessly criticized Darwin's theory of evolution. Second, he named a prehistoric behemoth's fossil as gruesome lizard, Dinosauria. In another word, dinosaur. After Owen received and read the letter, he saw Simon as a talented boy with a bright future. Then, he acknowledged the discovery of this 18-year-old boy and named this kind of mites as Demodex, which means fat borer in Greek. In 1976, the legendary mite expert William B. Nutting discovered that from the Europe's white people to East Asia's residents, until Australia's Aboriginal and North Pole's Eskimo, among all the people around the world, varieties of Demodex were living within everyone's face's follicles. That time, one of the Williams students wrote a very humorous sentence. It was undoubtedly the first invertebrate metazoa to visit the moon. This was because the American astronaut's face was 100% carrying a Demodex. In the later study, they found out an awkward truth. Demodex doesn't have anus too. Its long tail is full of its own digested products. However, Demodex is different with dust mites. Demodex feeds on sebum. This causes huge amount of different kind of microorganisms parasiticid on its long tail. Whenever these microorganisms want to have either sebum or protein as their meals, they will ask the Demodex to eat for them. Although Demodex is weak, but those microorganisms are very potent. So if itch mites want to claim its territory here, have they asked for the Demodex's permission? Then scientists discovered the reason why humans didn't easily infest with itch mites. This is because most of the people have these fierceful Demodex on their face which suppress itch mites' presence. Luckily, Demodex doesn't have a habit of making caves. They only inhabit inside our hair follicles, help us cleaning up our hair follicles and devouring those bacteria. During puberty, when the hair follicle's sebum is overproduced, Demodex will be overpopulated, and we will still have skin diseases. Why is it like this? This is because Demodex and dust mite are the same. Both have no anus and will explode in the end. However, what Demodex exploded with weren't just only dung balls and digestive enzyme, but also numerous of parasitic microorganisms causing inflammation in our hair follicles and thus giving us skin diseases. Above are the three main types of mites on our body. First, dust mites that hide within the quilt and cause allergy. Second, itch mites that feed on dust mites, making caves on our face and causing scabies. Third, Demodex that inhabit our hair follicle, guarding its territory, eating uncontrollably, and might give us skin diseases in the end. In recent years, an entomologist named Michelle Troutwine, studying on different types of mites. She found out a correlation between the type of mite and people's living habits, especially the Demodex, where your parent passed them down to you once you were born. The scientist can even compare the type of mite between two people to tell their relationship in a family. Both humans and mites still maintain this kind of ancient but close relationship with each other. Mites are not scary, and humans can't eliminate all of the mites. We must learn how to live with mites in harmony, and one step further, learn how to live with nature in harmony too.